right? So we're good to go?
Yeah.
All right, so. Calling to order the Monday, June the 10th. Committee of the Whole Admin and Operations meeting at 6:30 PM here in the Township Hall in Spencerville. The second item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, and I believe that there needs to be a change to remove 5A. Am I correct with that, Sia?
You're the chair, correct. Chad has contacted the office and will reschedule his delegation.
Okay, so we're amending the agenda to remove 5A. Everything else is the same. All right, so then I need a mover for the agenda, moved by Councilor Ward, seconded by Councilor Martel. Hearing no further changes, having these additions. Okay, so then I'll call the question. All in favor? Good. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, conflict of interest, and the general nature thereof. Does anyone have a disclosure to make tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to business arising from previous committee of the whole meeting minutes, if any. Does anyone have any business arising from the minutes?
I'm here.
Okay, then we can move on to delegations and presentations, and that is Simone and Erica, and I apologize for not knowing how to pronounce your last name. Could you pronounce it for me so that I don't mess it up?
Rudy.
Rudy?
Yes.
Okay,
Rudy.
like it looks. All right, and so you're here to make a delegation or do a presentation on speed limits for Yoakum Road.
Yes.
So I invite you to step up to the podium. You have 10 minutes to speak. We're very loose with the rules on the 10 minutes. And when you're finished, we'll leave it open to the committee to ask questions or look for some further advice. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Simone Rudy. I live on Yoakum Road with my family. And this is my daughter Eva and my mother Erica, who also lives with us. And then there's Lindsay and Kaya. Lindsay's our neighbor diagonally across the street, and Kaya and Eva are best friends. They go to the same class, they're in the same school. I am here to present the reasoning for restriction of the rate of speed on Yoakum Road. In your materials that you received, you see that Yoakum Road is currently in 80 kilometers an hour zone. The road itself is 1.8 kilometers long. It has about 23 residences on the road itself. And in addition to the information that you're presented there, which is pretty much just facts, I added a second page that I'm going to elaborate on just a little bit. So my first point is that we have talked to people on Yoakum Road. So this is not just the 5 of us thinking, hey, we should do this. And there were no objections to having a restriction of the rate of speed from an 80 to a 40. We did not speak to everybody who lives there, but the people we spoke to were in favor of having the speed reduction. They are very aware that if you drive from the beginning of Yoakum Road, which is Smith and Yoakum, all the way to Highway 44 and Yoakum, it takes you 1 minute and 21 seconds if you drive full speed, 80 kilometers an hour. The numbers I've provided you on the second page is the average family car stopping distance. Now, that includes an immediate reaction. A regular immediate reaction is between 200 and 300 milliseconds, as well as a car that is in good mechanical shape, meaning the brakes are good and there are no issues with the tires. Currently, the number of trucks passing outweigh the numbers of passenger vehicles. Again, my point is not that we don't want trucks there. My point is that there are currently more trucks. Makes sense. So I looked into the stopping distance of trucks. And according to the numbers provided to me by the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, it is estimated that it takes commercial motor vehicles approximately twice as long to stop as passenger vehicles. So I did the math, And reaction distance and braking distance on a wet road for a passenger vehicle is 85 meters. As is indicated on that chart at 80 kilometers an hour. For dump trucks, it's 137 meters. That is based on immediate reaction time and the vehicle being in good mechanical shape. And also what you see on the second page is a view when you come around the bend on Yockham Road from the south side, driving northeast. And from where I took that picture to Lindsay's driveway is 150 meters. So in wet conditions at truck riding 80, which is possible, and I've seen it happen around that bend, coming out of the bend. Takes truck 137 meters to stop, and it's 150 meter stretch to that first house with kids. At least 13 meters or half a second for any potential errors, or such as distracted driving, or rusty brakes, or worn tires. Setting the speed rate at 40 kilometers instead of 80 would increase the travel time for motorists by 1 minute and 21 seconds for the entirety of Yockham Road. Just 1 minute and 21 seconds. But it would have an impact. And the impact of a restriction of rate of speed has an impact on Lindsay's family and on my family. This is now very self-centered. We live diagonally across the street from each other, and our kids are best friends. That includes Lindsay's son as well as my other daughter. We also have Albie who lives straight across the street. They spend a lot of time together. And we spend a lot of time making sure they're aware of the dangers of the road. And this is what my daughter wears to go visit her best friend. I am aware that reducing it to 40 does not take away the dangers, and our kids need to be aware what the dangers are. But they're kids, they're clumsy, they fall. And I swear the most interesting rocks are in the middle of the road, and they stop and pick them up. And it only takes one driver to be distracted. Where at 40 kilometers an hour, they have a really good chance of stopping if it's wet, if there's snow, or if it's dry. At 80 kilometers an hour, it's not. So my appeal to you is to draft the bylaw. Have it passed 3 times in council, right? As per municipal law. Under the Highway Traffic Act, it is up to the municipality to make that decision. You've done it before on Hans Road, and I would request that you do it again for us on Yockham Road. That was it.
Thank you for the presentation. I appreciate it. I'm going to open it up to committee for questions. So Chris, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. Yeah, it's you know, and I get it. We, you know, I mean, our children's safety is very important, right? And you know, you know, I did feel when I read this that it'd be really nice to have more input, and it's you know, it's one of these things that gets tricky because it's not necessarily all, you know, yes, it's Yockham Road residents, but it is also a bit of a pass through to get to the other roads between 44 and so, you know, it's a struggle of what to do with this, and I'm torn a little bit because if everywhere became 40-kilometer-an-hour roads, of course, we'd have a real problem around getting across the township, but it is we do have a wide space, but you know, I think I can say, I hear you, and I'd like to see if we can figure something out here. I'm just not sure how I feel yet about a 40 zone in that area, for instance, but I can appreciate that, you know, your situation for sure, so.
In all fairness, it's not my situation.
Yeah.
It's
That's
also
situation.
Dan who has 4 kids who lives beside us,
Mhm.
and Sean down the road who has a daughter. Like it's also older people who go for a walk, or I'm sorry, also Lindsay and her husband go for walks. So
And I mean, it's I don't want to call it, it's not deaf ears. I mean, we, you know,
absolutely.
I think that I would like to say that at least the feeling I have about this council here is that we really want to listen and we really want to make sure everybody has a good time in the community. And I think that's important to us for sure. You know, so it's not, you know, I haven't really made a feeling about it yet. I just, there's some things, there's some positives and negatives there. And, you know, if we do this, it's the kind of thing where I know that, you know, you guys may have 50 people come towards us and then we have another 100 people come with a different opinion later on. And
Absolutely.
so it becomes complicated, but I can hear you for sure. So, yeah.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Are you seeing a real increase in commercial vehicles in the
Yes.
last year and a half? Since Smith Road has been reduced their speed?
In all
Have you seen-
fairness,
Yes,
we actually moved there exactly a year ago.
okay,
But Lindsay's not in. Which, and Lindsay's, you've been there for 12 years, I want to say, or 15? Yeah, 15 years, so, yes, and I do understand
it's
Smith.
more,
Yeah. Yes. Massive difference in Smith was changed before.
and there's lots of commercial,
I think
Vehicles?
counted 95 one day,
95, and they're all,
95 trucks,
dump trucks,
yes.
Monday to Friday.
Now, Monday to Friday, of course, kids are in school, but there's,
No,
sorry.
No, I
it's-
agree. No, I know where you're coming from. I just wonder if we can do like. I mean, this would be up to council, but to start off with, you know, reduce your speed, children at play and get one of those
There were some.
speed. Get our speed signs up there so we can take our data, because I think
Mhm.
data is really important, Mr. Mayor. You know, if we had the data and take a good look at where it's coming from.
In all fairness, there are signs, absolutely, and when. When I had sent an email inviting to Chris LeBlanc, which I understand now is not actually the person I needed to address it to. Inviting anybody to be on our property, you know, come for an afternoon, do the math, send the OPP, do the count. Because I want to substantiate the numbers, because in all fairness, you see the emotional aspect. You know, the difference between 40 and 80 and what the
Yeah,
results are of an accident, let's say. But you don't know how the data applies to Yockin Road, because there is no existing data other than us counting ourselves. So,
and that's why I said with the speed sign, we get all that, the speed, the time,
absolutely.
how fast, the whole 9 yards. So I think that's one step, right? You know,
Because
we
we
should
can
be
just-
doing it. I think we'll recommend that probably if we get consensus around the table to do that first thing.
Yeah.
So and that's a start, just get us some and to monitor it but I know where you're coming from and I figured that you guys with the big trucks because of the reduced speed on Smith roads.
In all fairness. I've said that before to my mother, for me, it's not. I trust the drivers of the big trucks a bit more on being conscious of what's going on the
Mhm.
road than passenger vehicles, but everybody still has 80 plus.
Yeah, well, because it's 80.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
You good?
yes, I'm good. We'll work on it.
First of all, thank you. This is fantastic. You put a lot of work into this and it's obvious that you care. I'm gonna, Mr. Mayor, echo what the deputy mayor said. Let's start with the flashing sign and get some metrics so we know exactly what we're talking about. If I can, through you to staff, do we have any history of complaints on this road or incidents at all?
Through the chair, to Councilor Martel, no, real prior complaints on this, but if you look in your package on page 90, for another item that's on the agenda, we do have a process on how we would decide on what speed limits are and what the process is to make those changes. So we do have a process where we would look at this if we get resident concerns. But as the deputy mayor said, the first course of action is to put up the speed tracking and vehicle tracking devices to get some solid data before we put it
Yeah.
into the decision makings.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Through the mayor, is there any children at play signs put up? in the town?
Yes.
There is. And how many children would you estimate on that?
You know, 4. Context.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You can talk about it.
And another thing I'd like to ask you, how do you pronounce that name of the road?
Yeah, I say Yoakum.
You say what?
I say Yoakum Road.
You're close, it's Yoakum.
Yoakum, okay.
I've plowed it for so many years, and everybody calls it that, and then everybody comes in and calls it a different name, but.
My first language is German, so I want to say Joachim Road, but I know that's definitely not it.
That's how we say it, Yoakum Road.
Okay.
But no, you had a nice presentation, and we'll definitely look at it.
Thank you.
I appreciate the presentation. Being a mother, I know exactly where you're coming from. To me, if the, you know, if the stats tell the story that you're telling, I mean, the difference between a minute and 2 minutes or whatever to get across the road is not going to make that much difference to whoever's driving. It's really not. And if it saves a child's life, I'm all for it, but I agree they have to have the stats first to do something about it, and then, but yeah, no, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Good. Simone, I will say thank you for the presentation as well. From around the table, I've certainly heard that they want to follow the bylaw that we have in place to collect the data that would back up any decision we might actually make. It's important to have a resident bring a concern forward like you have so that it can start the ball rolling. It's not going to change it overnight, that's for sure. But as I think what'll come out of this is that we'll definitely get the speed monitoring machines out. We'll collect that data. Typically what would happen, I think after that, it would give us an indication, but maybe actually staff can outline how that process goes. I'm gonna look to the CAO and whoever we need to outline how that process goes to get us to where we would be back to consider, you know, a speed reduction. But what the first steps would be ahead. So it's clear.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So usually, the process that we would do is to put up the speed tracking devices to get an idea of time of day, speed, who is traveling the roads, and then as part of our process on safety zone policy, you know, that's where we would look at you know, prior collisions in the area, and then it's assessing the risk component. So that's where we have the risk factors of speed, truck volume, pedestrian volume, length of sidewalks. So in this case, since it's a road, you look at the size of the shoulder, and then intersections and exits. So I think the presenter actually laid it out really well on the map as far as the exact period that we would be covering. So it gives it'll give staff a good idea of where to put the device to get the best results.
Sure. So it's not necessarily a question of enforcement though, right? Like it's not that we're trying to make people drive 80 is too fast.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to make sure that I understand that correctly. The idea is to create it, to like, all the data is going to show us is if people are driving, like what percentile they're driving in, right? So our expectation is the speed limit's 80, they'll be driving the speed limit, I think, with that, yeah. Okay, well, that's the first step is to get and gather that data to show us where we're at. Any relevant accident or or reported incidents.
Correct.
And then it'll come back to us again for a discussion once we have some of that.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Maybe I'll just confirm with, the manager of roads if there's
Yes,
anything else.
sure, we'll set that up and we'll send us the extra information is. And we'll send it back to council. Okay. All right. Sorry, what?
Just on the traffic thing. I'm pretty sure we put one up there years ago. Yes, I recall putting it up myself, so. I don't know whether you can go back and check. I mean, I know it's been a few years, but you can see how much the traffic has increased on that road and whatever.
That, through the chair to Councillor Smil, that would definitely give us a look as to how much the traffic has increased. So
Yeah.
we could certainly find the output from that.
Yeah, we get a volume, cars per hour, cars per minute, that sort of thing.
Will certainly help with the risk matrix for sure.
Right, yeah, because then it would be justifiable to offer some form of a decrease.
Correct.
When we do that, it's the one piece that I found interesting. Can we at that discussion, if it's okay with the group? If the information's accurate, I'm not sure of the speed on Hands Road, but if the entire road is 40 kilometers and there is actually a precedent, can we, if there's minutes from that meeting, so we can see how they arrived at that? Can we have it included as part of that next discussion?
That was Hans Road, you said?
It
Yes,
was,
the bylaw number is actually in the submitted material.
Oh, okay, okay, perfect. Thank you.
2016 something, is that right?
I'll check that. I'm not sure.
I don't remember that. But I don't, I was here, I don't remember the reduction, but if we can have that so that we know that when we're making that next, or having that next discussion and decisions. Okay, good. Yeah. Everybody comfortable?
Yeah, no, yes, you know, and I feel we're gonna have the same conversation with Heineman Road after that, because when I was campaigning, that was definitely a conversation that was happening around there. It wasn't necessarily 40, but there was concern about the speed and of the road and everything else as well, so.
Yeah. In regard to the delegation.
Yep, definitely.
You're good.
I'm fine, thank you so much.
Everyone's good. I just want to make sure with someone here, we're gonna have a discussion about it later, but yeah, good. Thanks for the presentation, Simone. I really appreciate you bringing it forward. It'll be a bit, but we'll get it back.
I'm not expecting a quick turnaround. I know how many municipalities
Yeah.
have to work. There's a lot of restrictions, but thank you very much for hearing me out and letting me address it. It means a lot.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for your time.
Thank
Good
you.
evening.
Okay, so if I'm correct, there's nothing on consent agenda. Who's clerk tonight? Dave, are you clerk? Is there anything on consent agenda? There was no items. Okay, so we're on to 7 then, which is discussion item, and that is 7A, which is the Canal Stone Slope Stability Investigation Report. And CAO, who will be speaking to this?
I think, yes, I'll speak to this. Sorry. Yes, so, in front of you, you have, the final report from Collard Associates on May 28th. The photographic evidence confirms that the blocks do continue downward at the rate, to which the slope is failing is considered. The report does highlights risk mitigation options that can be carried out for the study, and also provide some degree of risk management as work progresses on the cleanup and natural beautification of the area. We recently followed up with the ministry and the status of our RED grant submission. We unfortunately were unsuccessful in getting that RED grant, but we will continue to try each year that it becomes available, and hopefully eventually we will get it. One area that is related to the report that will require further discussion is how to deal with the existing stairways and additional requests for stairways on additional stone slopes.
Good.
Yes, good.
All right. So my job is to manage this. So, who wants to go? Show of hands. Anyone wanna start the discussion? This is you. Do you wanna break the ice?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I really don't have any, I don't think we learned anything new here. I wasn't a big fan of the process to begin with, so no, I have nothing to say on this.
Okay, so we do need to discuss the stairways. There are suggestions in regard to the stairways. Do comments on stairways or locations of stairways or no
Nothing
thoughts
at
on
this
it?
point.
Yeah, I'll come
no.
back to you after.
Yeah, through the mayor to whoever, the stairway at the east end is very stable, built up. Anyway, what I'm wondering, have we even discussed about putting a fence on the top and bottom so people can't get on it? Like. Just wondering if we have even brought that up. Mainly because if you read it, they're suggesting that we put signs up. But if somebody falls on that, whether there's a sign there or not, we're liable. But then they can be charged for trespassing, climbing over a fence. I don't know how much the fence would cost, but it's just a suggestion. I mean, you can see if you walk down there, I mean, it's in rough shape. And cleaning up the area in front of it, up by the causeway, is showing people, oh, we should go down there for a walk. Like you're almost inviting them, which I mean, I agree, it looks good with the trees all being taken out, but I'm just worried about safety for people and kids. Other than that,
Yeah, as a child who played on it in the 70s and the 80s, to see that it's only moved 5 or 6 inches since then, I'm not really, I know I'm not personally concerned about, you know.
It's, I mean, from what they're saying, it's really taking its time moving. I mean, someone could maybe be hurt down there, but I don't know if putting up a fence is gonna stop anybody from doing anything. Sometimes you put up a fence, it's inviting them to climb it and do something, so, yeah. It's, I don't know.
I'll just look to see what exactly are you looking to get out of the staircases? Like, are we looking to add more? Are we? I don't hear any issues with the ones that we have now. The one we have now.
I think the only bit of clarity I think staff would like is should we get requests to add more staircases, given the condition of the bank, what would council like the response to be?
Okay. New to guys?
I mean, this this has been a tough one, right? I mean, and to your point, it's not moving very much. I don't know that we should contemplate adding more stairs and continuing construction in the area. I don't think that's, you know, I didn't get the feeling that that's a recommendation that we're getting from here. And I don't think we should undertake that because that would be the time where if we're disrupting things, we could cause a problem, to be honest. So I would say that's not something I think we should do without at least having a proper study done that supports the actual construction of that thing. And then as far as fencing goes, I think I kind of agree with Karen there that it's, you know, a fence will just make people want to go over there, but I do think we should be putting up some signs potentially, just if there's you know, wherever there's risk, I got the feeling that that's a recommendation to protect this as well.
Were you wanting to
Yes.
break right in on that discussion, or could?
No, I was just, the stairway discussions. I'm good to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Through the mayor to staff, have we had anyone ask about putting stairs up? I'm just, how did the stairs get onto the report? Is that an issue? Did somebody at some point say, hey, we need more stairs there?
they're built into the rocks.
No, I think we're good with the set that's there. It
Yeah.
sounds like an additional set that we're talking about, so.
Through the chair, maybe I'll ask the director of operations if we've received any requests.
Thank you, Mr. CAO, and through the chair, we do have a few staircases that have been built over the years from the upper end down the Canal Stone bank to access the dock at the lower level. Most of these are relatively what we would consider grandfathered. However, within the last year to year and a half, there have been some inquiries from residents, let's say within the Flet subdivision with respect to building staircases down
Yeah.
to place a dock there. At this time, we had touched base with insurance with respect to those items, but I think that it seemed to fit in with this discussion as a starting point. Certainly not anticipating any type of decision made tonight, but certainly something that committee and council will need to ponder with respect to how we will approach those in the future with respect to whether it's a hard no, whether it's some type of an agreement that is in place with respect to the maintenance of those items. You know, there is a large array of what could take place, but just really to begin that conversation.
Right, and those are more, I think we were all focusing on the southern side. And those are all more on the northeastern side, right? Like from,
Typically the ones that are in place now, although I would not say that it is strictly to the north side of where inquiries had occurred.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't thinking north side. I was thinking our existing staircase, not Flood Street, but okay, sorry, Deputy Mayor, I skipped you over there.
No, that's what my concern was, so we have no concern on the, or complaints or anything to do with the stairways that's there now.
Our staircase.
Our stair, is everything okay with that? Except for,
Through the chair, I don't believe we received any complaints on those stairs.
right, and according to our report. The report says it's what, 0.5? On the safety end of it though? Is that what, over 0.5, eh? So are they saying it's, yeah, over 500? So is this report telling us this section is getting bad, duly chaired to the operation manager?
To the chair, with respect to the south side of the canal slope.
Yeah, Southside Bank where it says 525. Appendix photo record, be 20. What page 49 and 94?
Well, I think overall, in comparison from 2006 to 2024.
Yeah,
Also, if you look at the photo that was included with respect to a little bit of an unknown time frame between 1928 and 1961, which is
I see that. Yeah,
pretty wide gap. But if you look close enough on that south side,
I know.
you can see some waving with respect to that. So
that's
to me, to me, that's a little bit of reassurance that it is very gradual and for all intents and purposes relatively stable, so to speak, from that perspective. So
yeah,
I think that overall it was somewhat encouraging with respect to that report that there's nothing that stuck out as a really urgent action that was going to be required.
but it is a 525 according to their records, right? I mean, compared to to the other ones at, you know, 425 or 350, so. Yeah, after looking at the ship in 1961 or whatever it is, I agree, it hasn't moved that much. I mean, I think signage, let's get some signs made up.
Yeah.
Myself, you know, cautious. Whatever, to cover our rear ends, I don't even know if we should be looking at a fence, you know. Do we really need that at this time? So that's my feelings on it. I mean, let's just get some signs first, get some signs up.
So to staff, the Canal Stone Slope Stability Investigation Report was the first step in moving forward to really proceeding with a fulsome cleanup. And is that fair to say? I mean, it was Councillor Martel's idea, I believe, to, he didn't want to do the slope stability study, but I think he wanted to do, you know, some work in the area, get it cleaned up, you know, make it with lighting and more attractive to residents to use. But this was what we needed to do to make sure that we could use the area safely, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, so out of the study, do we get the sense that we can use the area safely? And two, from a corrective measure standpoint, I get signage is needed as well. But to me, there's not much that needs to be done. So at least when I read it, so to be able to get in there and actually start moving forward with making the area more user friendly.
Through the chair, yes, there's nothing stopping the beautification of the area and continue on the path that we're doing with the high school and all those other types of things. There's nothing precluding that. This just gives a baseline for where things are now and where things need to potentially go.
So to be able to proceed forward, we've done the first step of what we need to do. Now we can start moving along and knowing. Yeah.
And so just so staff is clear on the direction, then the direction from this is to increase the signage in the area to just warn people about the
Do a due diligence.
due diligence.
Like possibility, like we, on the north side, we have that warning signs that say danger or warning. Stones may be unstable or something of the like, I think. The DOO may know what that says, but I can see it. It's right at the end of Meadowlands. Or St. Lawrence, whatever street that is, when you come out of there, the sign's right there, but I can't remember off my head what it says.
Through the chair, I believe it indicates keep off stones. Unstable.
Yes, right, okay. So, I mean, if, a couple of us think that that's warranted. I mean, I know Councillor Smale said a fence. I'm not at a fence by any stretch. Are you okay with signs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
For sure.
okay, so I think signage, a little bit of signage that would be good. One thing I think worthwhile noting, and it's the pictures are August 23rd, 2006. And then when the new pictures were done, it's the spring. And it's a little bit misleading in that the 2006 pictures make it seem like it was as overrun with foliage as it is today. And I think if you went out and you took pictures of it today, instead of when the 2024 pictures were done, it would paint a very different picture. There's a lot more foliage covering the rocks today. I think in the very first picture on page 1, you can't even see those rocks. Today, the picture is taken through the trees from the Highway 2 side, but you can't even see that stretch by Mr. Lazart's house. Like those rocks aren't even visible anymore. They're covered with vines and things there. And I think if you continue this along and you look at the 2006, the one thing that's notable is that there was a great deal more maintenance along the top areas of the rocks. There were a lot less trees there. There were still some trees, but a lot less. And I think that's probably where you were headed with trying to clean some of this up to make it more usable. Is that, but I think that that's a bigger discussion for a different day. This is just receiving a report, discussing the report about stability. I think everybody's comfortable with the stability of the rocks. We want some signage placed out of it. Now it's back in your court to bring something forward to move it around.
I have one more if I may.
Sure.
Through the chair and staff, do we have a cost on what this report costs us? Ballpark?
Certainly through the chair, as indicated before we undertook the study that went to committee. So it was 8,000 to have Collard Associates complete the report, and 4,000 for Safe Nation Conservation with their contracted men to see that report through.
Thank you.
I guess I would go one last question, and we've had our say on this. Was there anything that staff felt that I mean, I know the staircase portion of the discussion, I think that's something we're probably all gonna have to have another look at from a different perspective. Because it is a residence putting up staircases on, I guess there are stones. In my mind, they were the OPG lands. And OPG was the OPG is the one who gives them permission to put docks in. But I don't know if anybody asked permission to put staircases in. So certainly have to look at that from a different perspective, I think, in my head, and maybe have another discussion about it a different day. But was there anything that staff wanted to highlight that we potentially should be considering outside of additional signage? I noticed, like the little markers to see how much slipping there was. Is there merit to doing some of those nail studies or whatever to get more data? Like, to me, the data is complete, but I would like to hear what staff thinks, so.
Through the chair, I'll ask the director of operations.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. I would say that it would be worthwhile to undertake with having those surveys done periodically, to have sort of at least some historical trending. I think one of the items that one of the reasons that we undertook this slope stability study was that work was completed in 2006. And it didn't go, unfortunately, it didn't go to that next level of having some way to track to see if things are actually getting progressively worse and at what rate, and what is that risk. So I think that it would serve council, committee, and the township well to start to build that historical trend moving forward.
Okay. And is there, I mean, I read through it, are we talking about the nail study, like where they drill the holes and put the nails in and see what the movement is? Is that what your suggestion is, or is there something that staff will come back with for the recommendation maybe for us?
Yeah, I think through the chair, that appears to be the most cost-effective and simplest approach with respect to monitoring that movement, whether that's in the spring or whether that's in the fall. I think as long as it's consistently done, then I think that would add some value.
Okay. And would we? I get that there's sort of the recommendation in there, but is that something that we give back to staff and then wait for staff to bring a report forward and with a budget attached to it on what kind of dollar values we're looking at including, or that something that we're expecting to come up with tonight? I don't get the sense we're gonna get to that tonight. so.
I think through the chair, I believe that would be something that we would be looking at with respect to a budget item for 2025. With respect to that, I think and having Collard sort of prepare what those areas of focus and what it would be with respect to setup is the next step as far as 2024.
Sure. So just looking around the table for nodding heads, then so we can move on. So do I get the sense that everybody wants to monitor the movement, actually do, like we did it in 2006, but we didn't go far enough by the sounds of it, so that we can continually monitor how much has been done. We're back here in 2024 with somebody else who wants to continue moving this discussion forward. I certainly support, moving that discussion forward. But I think the suggestion from staff is it's great to get the stability study, but without ongoing records of that, we don't really have a starting point. We're just using pictures and historical data. This will give us a starting point. We'll be able to accurately measure the movement. That sounds fair?
That sounds fair.
Okay, all right. So just looking for a nodding of heads. Does everybody support having staff bring back something to the committee with a couple of recommendations on how we do that?
For 2024 or put it in the 2025 budget?
Well, let's just see what the recommendations are first.
I'm all for it. Let's keep it rolling.
If you wanna go with the table,
So I think there's consensus on doing that. Bring us a recommendation or a couple of recommendations on how to move forward with the stability monitoring, and then, that's the ball's in your court. You got the study now. You can do with it what you need to do. Okay.
yeah,
Okay, all right. Everybody done with this? All right, so the next one is me, not staff. And it is an item that came forward, it's come forward twice at United Counties. I don't expect most of council to be aware of it unless you watch United Counties. I know you've got boring lives and that would be fun to watch for sure. But it's come up several times. It's mostly Brockville pushing, but Brockville and a little bit of North Grenville pushing for automated speed enforcement updates and, or not updates, but automated speed enforcements. And they've done it through LAS. There's a couple of different agencies that offer automated speed enforcement. The areas that they're able to do automated speed enforcement are in community safety zones, which ultimately are, I think there's 5 places that community safety zones can be. I think the only one of those that we actually have is, and there's 2 of them, they would be schools. The reason that I brought it and I wanted to have it as a discussion item at the table is I'm going to argue, my instinct at county's council is to argue against it. I just see it as a cash grab, an easy way to give every single person who drives by at 15 kilometers an hour over the speed limit a ticket. And to me, it just doesn't sit well for me. And I wanted to make sure before I made that argument, normally I wouldn't do that, but I didn't want to make that argument at the table and have 4 or 5 people looking at me the next time I came back to this committee and say, what did you do that for? We thought differently on that. And usually I know, we've never even had a speed discussion at this table other than earlier tonight. Really, we all heard that people want to reduce speeds. This won't fix that. It would be like on in front of the school in Johnstown and potentially on 44 or wherever. I'm not even sure that there is a school safety zone right here in Spencerville.
Through the chair, no, there's no school safety zone, but Henderson to go to Centennial is it's a small street and it ends in the parking lot, so
Right.
there's no.
Speeding's not a,
You'd have to go pretty quick
yeah.
to.
You never get it. You'd be through the school.
Setting a camera up there won't accomplish anything. So
Check it
So
out.
from our standpoint, there's two areas that we could have it. I'm personally, even if it was in front of, I name a spot, I probably still wouldn't support it. I believe in what we talked about earlier, which is, solid data from speed to show that the speeds are excessive. And then I believe in allowing police and enforcement to actually do their jobs once they're provided with that data. And then if the behavior still exists to the point where there were safety concerns and accidents, then maybe I could get my brain to some form of camera, but for the cost of it, the fact that it has to go through provincial offenses, courts, that sort of thing, I struggle to find a way to support the idea. So that's my perspective on it. I'd like to hear others if anyone wants to throw their 2 cents in, so.
Question through the chair to staff is, have we got a history of issues in Johnstown?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge.
It's another street. It's like Henderson, really, by the time you get
Yeah,
Sophia to, you just can't. And I've never really tried to operation manager anyone here that's been around. Never heard one complaint.
It's
Speed wise.
awfully hard to get going at a fast
Yeah.
speed with everybody driving their kids to school and the line up.
Wow.
Seems to go down both those side streets as well, and Mr. Mayor, I feel that this camera thing is getting lit on the head myself as well. I mean, you see it in Ottawa, and it's I don't think they're even hiding the fact that it's about money more than it's about safety, and I don't see us having an issue in our township, and I'm not even sure that I'd say from what I know about some of the other areas that they're in the entire counties, that I think it's an issue there either, from what I've heard, so you have my support for sure.
I think it's a cash cow myself. I've never seen too many cars going fast near schools, when the school's open.
Well,
People
we
dropping
don't
over
have
and
an
off
issue
all
with
the
that.
time.
Here's talking Brockville and North Grenville.
It's definitely pushed by Brockville. I
Yeah.
think that,
They can hire another police officer to deal with that issue.
Mhm.
that would be my suggestion as well.
Yeah,
I had a $90 ticket, I understand.
I'm of two minds, really. I mean, yes, I think in some places it is definitely a cash grab. I think in some places it can be beneficial. I mean, it depends on the area. I can't see it. I mean, I can think of a couple other areas in Johnstown where they could use it, not around the schools,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the schools, as you said, you can't go that fast there. But there's a couple other roads that could definitely benefit from that.
You almost got
You know.
4-way stops at every street out there. So.
Well, I'm
Doesn't mean a lot.
talking closer to where I live, so. it's,
Yeah, I think, in my mind, right, like, a lot of us live close to or on Highway 2, but I think we all live, but even listening to the folks that were in earlier tonight, I mean, and I don't think speeding.
I don't think so.
I don't think it's an enforcement issue for them.
No,
But I think in some of the cases, like going by some of your houses, it's 50s or 60s or whatever the speed limits are. To me, that's an enforcement issue. And if we have the ability with speed monitoring devices, and we can put them up and we can show that more enforcement is warranted in those areas, that our perception of the speeds that people are traveling is out of control. It'll show in that data. When we hand that over to the OPP will say, yeah, you're right, we need to do additional enforcement. And they'll do additional enforcement. They won't do that without that data.
Exactly.
So to me, those are the right ways to do it. Most of the areas I think that we're talking about aren't community safety zones. They're not areas that even speed monitoring would make a difference in Edwardsburg Cardinal. So I just wanted everyone, and I did put a resolution in there that was, calling for non-sport and support, just in case it was sport. So I'm happy to argue how council and committee tells me to argue. It is my voice there, but I see that voice as collectively from Edwardsburg Cardinal, and I certainly don't want to use that voice in a wrong way there. So there are a couple of recommendations. One is to the negative, and I think I need a mover and a seconder if somebody's willing to move in second so that I can actually have it forwarded to the United Counties and all the members of United Counties so that they understand that we are not in support of it in advance of our July meeting or our June meeting or potentially our July meeting when they may try to move it forward.
Mr.
I
Mayor,
just
I
want them to
would,
know how we feel about that.
I would move your draft number 2, which is the one that states now therefore be resolved that municipal council of the township of Edwardsburg Cardinal hereby requests United Counties and Leeds and Grenville remain status quo until further consultation is completed with all lower tier and single tier municipalities that may be impacted by the implementation of the proposed automation speed enforcement program.
Okay. Second. Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, then I think I'll call the question then on that resolution then, all in. Good, all right, unanimous, so moved, seconded, unanimous, so then we've got that resolution, it'll come back to council, it has to go through actual council meeting first, which is after. That's a monkey. Is there county's council? I haven't looked at the agenda for our county's council, but it is on June the 20th, I believe, is the next council. County's council would be the Thursday before our council meeting. Okay, we'll see if it comes up, then I may have to deal with this different, but for now, this won't get forwarded to counties. It'll have to wait until June, well, June when we pass it, then it'll get forwarded for correspondence.
That is correct.
Right, okay, all right, so that's good. That's the best I can do.
And, through the chair, just for a point of clarity, a resolution can't be drafted to go against something. That's why it says status quo.
Right.
So a resolution can't be drafted to the negative. So a status quo is basically saying no.
Right. I think we did that with the agricultural leer too, right? I think we asked for the leer to be slowed or stopped or something. Anyway, okay, all right, moving on. Thanks for your indulgence, crew. Just one of those difficult discussions at the table, because I know how I feel about it at that discussion, and it doesn't have a whole lot of momentum there. There's only 2 people that really want to move it forward, maybe only 1, and I don't get the sense it's going to go forward, but I certainly want to be able to articulate on behalf of the folks that's at the table. Okay, so 8A, which is Mapleview Landings donations, options, and agreement, and CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what you have in front of you is an action item for Mapleview Landings, the donations, options, and agreements. So we have the options for the naming rights. So our commitment was the 22,500 within 3 years. So you have a table that shows what the naming rights are as far as sunrooms, dining balconies, living rooms, and resident rooms. And there's also other bins that can be used for furniture and equipment, or beautification, or technology, or an in-demand drop box and assigned to whatever aspect of the facility is most in need at the time. So the recommendation that's in front of you is that committee recommend that council enter into a naming rights agreement with United Counties of Leeds and Grenville and provide direction to staff on how the funds are to be utilized within the agreement.
Okay. Thank you, CAO. Question before we begin the discussion. Are we certain that sunrooms, dining room, or dining balconies, living rooms, and resident rooms aren't all filled up yet, but that the top 3 options there are actually still available? Or is that old info from when they first made the presentation?
Through the chair, I believe they are. I will confirm with the clerk.
Okay. Good. All right. So we've already budgeted the 22.5, And now we're deciding what we want for the 22.5.
Correct.
Okay, all right, who wants to go?
Dining balconies,
Two?
eat there every day, right? You're gonna see it every day. Everybody eats. Some people don't like the sun.
But they gotta use it.
Gotta eat. Gotta eat. Okay, so we have a suggestion for 2 dining balconies because everyone has to eat. Does anyone have any other suggestions, or is everybody okay with 2 dining balconies?
Mr. Burton's convinced me already.
Certainly brought up,
What do we have,
Measure
22.5,
11.
we don't have 25?
yeah, no, 25 would have been ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to go living room and a resident room for sure, it's 15. That's my feelings.
So your living room and,
Actually, I would go the sunroom and resident room, 20 grand and another 22. You know, 22. Furniture, equipment. Technology.
okay,
I'll go sunroom and
so
resident
there's
room.
one. Chris, did you give an indication? You laughingly said, do you actually want some input on this? Or?
No, I did, the way that Council Martel worded that sounded exactly, you know, if looking at it from a perspective of getting our name out there more, that would certainly be a way to do it, I would think, so.
Okay, so 2 people for 2 dining balconies. And 1 person for a sunroom and a resident room.
And I agree with you, Mr. Martel, Councilor Martel, dining room.
Yeah, I'm fine with dining balconies.
All right. So can we confirm the availability of the dining balconies?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
and my math leaves us that leaves us 2,500, right?
Correct.
I don't see any dollar values attached to any of the other bins. So is there, we just do 20,000 is what we're gonna get naming rights on dining balconies, and then the other 2,500 is just the donation? Do we know that, or?
Through the chair, I can confirm, with the clerk when she's back.
Sure.
Whether the naming bins, you know, with, other townships contribute to, say, a technology tote, that we would have our logo on there along with whoever else sponsored that. So I think, we can certainly look at, doing the remainder of the donation to one of the totes.
Okay, so you'll bring some of them back to us then for the council meeting then on the 20th?
Through the chair, that is correct. Now that, we have consensus on the dining, balconies, we'll have that in the final agreement.
Okay, and that would be June 25th, right? That we would do that, and we would, that's at what time, like, have we released a check to them as of yet, or no?
Through the chair, I'll have to confirm, whether we've actually sent checks out for that yet.
Okay.
And it would just be for the first year component, the $7,500.
Okay, because if we haven't, it might be worthwhile to invite the fundraising committee to do a picture with Edwardsburg Cardinal Council as we present them with a check for that. It certainly makes sense to have media and others know where those dollars are going. So we can potentially arrange that. I think that would be time well spent. So
Sure, I will confirm quick.
okay, thank you. All right, anything further on this one before I move on? Okay.
There is an action item, so you'll need to
Oh, so I do need
recommendation.
a mover. So there is a recommendation. You read the recommendation already. Committee recommends the council enter into a naming rights agreement with the United Counties of Leeds Grenville and provide direction on staff to how the funds are to be utilized within the agreement. We've done that already, so I just need a mover for that item. Councilor Martel, seconder. Councilor Smale, all in favor. Okay. Good. Got what you need. Then we're on to 8B, which is 2096 Dundas Street update, and who will be speaking to that? CEO.
Through the chair, I will pass to Sean Merriman, our interim CEO.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Sean, is this your first presentation to this council?
So it's
Welcome to the Committee of the Whole Admin and Operations, and we're thankful you're here for us.
Thank you very much for having me here. So through you, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Right.
This project is located at 2096 Dundas Street in Cardinal, Ontario. The last regular council meeting, I believe Deputy Mayor Dillabrow asked for an update on this, and that's why this information package has been brought forward. So the property in question was issued a permit in the fall of 2022. And the final project approval was issued in December of that year. Prior to that, the permit was issued in what we would call either a phased or conditional. So it's allowed to proceed. We know that it's going ahead, but we don't have all the details yet. We received all the details in December. The permit number itself is 2022-134, and so far 4 inspections have been completed. The last time that one was entered into the software system was 18 months ago. And that's not to say that, you know, the previous CBO or inspector hasn't been on site. There was no actual work that had to be done that had to be documented and put into the system. The project, I'm not sure how much everyone knows about it here, but it was based on renovating the main floor into various commercial suites with the residential suites above. And at some point during the renovation, the owner became aware that the renovation budget that he had submitted was, to say mildly, overly optimistic. He feels that a lot of this is due to water damage that has been caused by neighboring buildings. And that's basically where it has stopped. At this point, when I reached out to them, I got informed that all correspondence had to go through his lawyer. It did go through the lawyer has responded back, and there has been, at the writing of this report, there had been no visit set up, but we have agreed on a visit time, and during that time, I will basically be checking it for the immediate safety to the neighboring buildings, the community as a whole is large and everything else. And also be attempting to get us a more firm schedule from when he intends to start construction again, and or what he plans on doing with the building. I have included 6 pictures for you to take a look at. The big thing's just showing us, you know, in general, it's fairly stable. It is showing the area that the gentleman feels was part of the problem. And I'm more than happy to take any questions if anyone has anything on this.
I'm sure they will. All right, do you want to go first, Steve?
Sure. With that being said, where's our next step? Is that Sean, is that for us to sit down with them? You would sit down with them to the owner and get information of when he thinks this project will be completed? I mean, this has been going on for 2 years now, 3
No.
years.
And I approve you, Mr. Chair. No, I can appreciate that, and the nice thing is we have agreed to set up the meeting, and like I said, the meeting is to determine first safety to the community overall, and safety to the building and people that are working in it. Then we'll go from there. Unfortunately, projects don't always fall on a timeline that we would like. But like I said, let's get started moving with the process and stuff like that, and we'll go from there. So the first step's to have a meeting, which he's agreed to. Don't get me wrong, it's the CBO. I have the right to go on at any time, but it's always much easier to go on a property when you're going on with someone's permission than it is just because you're throwing your authority around that you have the right to do something.
So we are scheduled in the next week or two, and then, like I said, this may be a case that it has to come back to council again. But, you know, probably not the next meeting, but shortly after that, once there's more information to share with you.
Duly chair, so you're saying 2 weeks roughly?
We're set
Well-
up actually for next week.
Oh, good, very good. So I guess we will sit and wait until after your discussion with the, is it would be his lawyer or? he's gonna be-
Actually, no, he's
Okay.
going, his lawyer plans that he will, oh, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
Yeah, as I understand it, I'm meeting the owner on site.
Okay,
And he realizes that I'm looking for explanations about when construction's going to start, how he's going to proceed. Regardless of whether or not his concerns have merit, we still have to move forward regardless with the project. Any civil litigation that he decides to launch can always be dealt with at a later date. It doesn't have to be dealt with first prior to the project moving ahead, so.
yeah, thank you very much, Sean, for looking into that, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I don't think it's a tricky question, but I'm just not sure. So if it, you know, it seems, please forgive me for that, but so, assuming there's not a safety concern with the building. We do have other levers that we would leverage, I'm assuming though, to put a timeline to when we expect completion of a lot of these projects, or is that?
Yeah, correct. Through you, Mr. Chair. We do have other levers, but let's first see where the plan is right now, and then we'll go from there. And then, of course, that's always something that I can speak of with the CAO about other options that we have moving forward, and then decide at that point if, you know, which way is the best way to move with it. The biggest thing for me is just making sure the site is safe. Let's start there first. Once we got that, then we can work with the other going forward. Looking at it from the outside, I suspect it's safe, but at the same point, until I'm actually inside it, I won't know for sure. And it's also something that you can't leave forever, because even though it might be safe today, it doesn't mean it'll be safe in 6 months or a year or whatever, being exposed to the elements the way it is.
Satisfied?
Thank you.
Councillor Smiley, you had a question?
Mr. Council Ward just answered it, but I have one more question. If it comes to a complete stop, what action can we take then? Because apparently right now, it looks like he's come to a complete stop, whether he's gonna have a meeting with you or not.
Through you, Mr. Chair, at some point, the permit can be declared void due to the fact that the work hasn't completed. Then we've moved through property standards and safe buildings and all that other stuff to clean it up. Unfortunately, I do not think this council or any municipality is probably in any shape where they're going to want to step in and complete the project. But at some point, we would clean up the site and it would be added to the property taxes in a manner like taxes. And if push came to shove, the township would at some point own it because it wasn't paid off. And then at that point, the township could do with it as they preferred, either selling it at whatever. But it's definitely going to be a long process, regardless of what situation starts. I would be wrong to give you guys any impression other than months, if not year plus, to deal with it.
That's sad because, I mean, it just ruins the looks of the village garden. It's going on for so long.
Oh, well, patience. Thank you. Not sure what that laughter is about, but anyway, I do believe this is a time we have to just be patient with it, I really do.
Councillor Martin.
Nothing. Thanks for being here. Well,
Nothing for me.
Okay, just so we certainly have all heard resident concerns. You will deal with that in a report back to us at some point outlining that it either is safe or isn't safe. So we'll have that answer after next week.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'll report it through my CAO.
And
And then you can decide if you feel you need another report or if the explanation and or plan given to the CAO is something we can all live with. So,
okay, all right, we certainly do not want to involve ourselves in the ongoing process. That is not my suggestion. My suggestion is just. We do have questions from residents. I think they're, neighboring residents. I think their concerns are. Valid at this point. It's certainly, the site has been. It's been a challenge, I think, for the last 18 months.
that's a good word.
Yeah, and I think, there is a frustration level. There is businesses located nearby and, their business can be impacted by, by that process. And it's been they've been very patient thus far, but it's a long process. So, I know that that's the first step. Excuse my ignorance on this, and it is ignorance. I'm not being smart with this. Are there expiries on building permits?
Through you, Mr. Chair, direct to you, Mr. Chair. Yes and no. So the building permit code says that if you go more than 6 months without meaningful activity on a site, at the CBO's discretion, he can reach out to the person to inform them that the building permit is going to be revoked. The problem is the way the Building Code Act is written. If he writes back to me and tells me he still plans on going ahead with the building, I can't really revoke it. Now, if I've done that once or twice, and he still hasn't done anything, at that point, I can go to the courts and ask the courts to declare it null and void as well as me, at which point then it can. In this case, I'm hoping that this meeting will be constructive in that he's giving me the impression anyways that he is planning on going ahead with the project and he may be starting from scratch. And if that's the case, that might be the easiest solution, so.
Yeah, it's interesting, the water damage was mentioned before as, a concern for them, but yet, the tarp that's covering the roof has been, open now for a long time, allowing it full exposure to the elements both through winter, spring, fall, all seasons, and it's. I do as mayor find it frustrating. I find it frustrating that every time I go in to pick up a prescription that.
You're looking.
That I'm not only looking at it, that I'm getting those same questions. So I am happy to hear that, the process continues. I'm slightly disappointed that there isn't an expiry date, on a building permit, that there is any, that could go on forever.
Not to scare you, Mr. Mayor, but I know of a prime example in Perth where an apartment building was started, got 3/4 of the way up and the place went bankrupt. That place took almost 9 years before it was able to get through everything and get sold by the town to another developer who did finish it. And it looks beautiful now, but I can appreciate the frustration that will come along with this. So, patience.
All right, well,
My goals for better than nothing.
I appreciate that. Well, I won't be here to deal with it, so, okay, is there further on this one, folks? Anyone have anything? That's 2096 update. You're satisfied with?
Yeah,
I mean,
I hope
you know,
the
you're
meeting
satisfied
goes well next week, and I'm sure it will.
Yep, okay, all right, so then moving on to item 8C, which is 2103 Dundas Street vacant lot follow up. And
Through the chair, I will go to the director of operations for this report.
okay, thank you. DOO, fire away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the Community Development Committee meeting last week, some options were presented. I've included that report because not all advisory members would have been present or aware of that initial discussion item that was put forward. It provided several options that could be looked at. At that time, committee requested that we do some additional follow-up with the owner of 2099 Dundas Street to obtain some more details with respect to the area size that they were looking for, and a few more details with respect to the storage of that equipment. So this is just sort of to provide a little additional information with respect to those two items. And we did touch base with staff with respect to that as a temporary snow storage. And although that was used for some time as a location for snow storage, within the last few years, that is not in a location where the acute snow has been placed. It is typically hauled away to the Avena site. So just with that, just providing an update with respect to the request from committee from last week.
Okay, so I'm gonna look to staff for a little help on this. We made no decisions at the last meeting, but we did have a discussion regarding this. Because we had no decision, we're good to discuss it fully again.
Through the chair, yes, I think what committee asked for was some additional information so that they could continue the discussion with respect to.
Right, okay, right, okay, so I just wanna make sure procedurally. We made no decisions, we gave no direction other than to come back with more information. This is the more information, we continue with the discussion from where we were.
That is correct.
Okay, all right, I just wanna make sure that we're not wading into the deep water. Okay, who wants to go? I would, but I'm chair.
I will. We have 5 options, but no recommendation. It's
So,
the same as
ask
last
for
week. So I guess
Ask staff.
from staff, what are we recommending? Out of the 5 options here. Do the chair to the operation manager, director of operations, sorry.
Certainly. Through the chair, I would say, certainly, one of the items that could be done is just sort of remain status quo, make no changes. I think what one of the areas that from the discussion last week that committee wanted was sort of that area or space that was going to be looked at if there was a lot line adjustment with respect to that. So I think with that information, that is what the owner of 2099 Dundas Street is looking for optimally. Whether that makes the most sense for committee is certainly another story. There also is that option of looking at sort of dividing that lot up among adjacent owners of the in and around that area. Ideally, although it's not of main value, I would say to the township as it is, it may be more complicated in trying to dispose or subdivide that or complete lot line adjustments with potentially so many parties that may be involved in that, including the adjacent rail line.
No real recommendation then, I don't think, other than
Option 5.
potentially status quo. Not to put words in your mouth, but I think that's ultimately what I
Well,
heard.
yeah, I think through, look, I think through the chair, it's one of those unique situations from a staff perspective, like the piece in question holds no value from an operational standpoint, from a township side. So it's hard to determine whether making a recommendation to say dispose of that. It's remained that way for decades, so it probably makes the most sense unless there is a real will to look at disposing of that or transferring it in some way, shape, or form, that it just remains status quo.
So hard not to get into this. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go through, Mr. Mayor. I've actually got a lot of feedback on this and have been contacted by a couple of the adjacent property owners who have taken time out from a hockey game night to actually appear here tonight. The overwhelming majority of people I've talked to no one that doesn't want to stay with the status quo. So option 5 is the only option I'm seeing.
Councilor Smith?
I agree, status quo.
Yeah, I think there's no, other than status quo, there's no other good answer out there, to be honest, and it's no value to us, except it's also not harming us either, so.
Okay. I think I quite agree with the status quo option. I think we've been, for I can't remember his last name. But for the owner of 2103, we've certainly been accommodating as a council. We've been more than accommodating. And it's fantastic that he purchased the building and he wanted to locate a business in our township. And we've certainly we've taken a big chunk of land already and given that to them so that they can access their loading bay door. We've had small business owners that are asking us to retain the parcel to keep status quo so that it in the rare occurrence, they can still access their property in another way. And I certainly support, that side of those businesses as well. I mean, I'm not willing to throw everything in for this one business. The one request, though, that if we go status quo, does that mean we're saying no to the shed? Or is there anywhere where we would potentially allow him to locate the shed on a small piece or portion of that property? I didn't hear anyone ask for it. I just want to make sure that everybody in their status quo, that means no shed. And I'm fine with that if that's the case. I just want to make sure that that's what we're saying.
No shed for me.
Yeah, he's talking about a 10-foot by 10-foot shed.
I'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Status quo is status quo.
Status quo.
That's my understanding.
Okay, I don't think it matters what. You can sit on the fence all you want. It does matter, but you can sit on the fence because I
don't need to
certainly,
sit on the fence.
I certainly think that we've done. I said this last meeting, I'll say it again, we've done more than enough to help out. I think that we're good. So now do we need to move that we remain status quo? We don't, do we?
Through the chair, I'll maybe ask the director of operations, and still needs the clerk, whether by process do we need to then create a motion for this?
So
I
don't think so.
would say, through the chair, if you want to, sort of have that confirmed, there's nothing to prevent committee from making the motion that you remain status quo. I think it does affirm
seals it up.
that, process. Alternatively, if there isn't the will with respect to that, I will advise that the direction provided was,
No.
remaining status quo.
Okay, so I need a mover then, from what I've heard around the table is option 5, which is that. Committee recommends that we remain status quo, no cost, and I'm gonna add to that, that we inform. The owner of 2103 of that decision.
I would love to move that.
Through the chair, just for clarification, it would be, the owner at 2099.
2099.
Where they were.
Oh, well, the lot is 20.
The lot is-
103, thank you for the, so change friendly amendment. 2099, thanks for the correction, Dio. Okay, so you're gonna move it, who wants to second? Seconded by, Councillor Ward, further discussion on this one? Glad to put it to bed. Hearing none, seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Unanimous. All right, so additional signage on Baker Drive and.
Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks for
You
coming
guys,
here.
you stick around, Gary, if you like.
It's exciting. Yeah, they're, oh, geez.
You should have got pictures.
Can we, motion to defer? Just kidding. The item on our agenda is 8D, which is additional signage on Baker Road and Lennox Road.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, the roads manager that will present this one. What's that?
I think it will.
Oh, it'll be you. Okay.
Director of Operations.
Director of Operations, sorry.
Through the chair, under council inquiries at the May 27th, council meeting, staff was asked to return with the bridge board with respect to an additional road signage on this particular section of road. So this is just to sort of provide an update. So there is a 40-kilometer-an-hour posted speed limit sign as you turn off of County Road 44 onto Baker Drive. And if you were turning off of County Road 21 onto Lennox Road, there is also a posted 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limit sign. I think through the conversation that somebody was kind of looking for a little bit of clarity with respect to the setting of speed limits. So it does fall under the Highway Traffic Act. And typically those built up areas, which I'm going to say probably really kind of relate to the, if you look at it from a zoning perspective, the settlement areas, sort of Cardinal, Johnstown, Spencerville, predominantly would be those speed limits, and the bulk of the rural roads would fall under that 80-kilometer, and that's if there isn't a bylaw passed by council and signage is posted to identify some other particular speed limit. I think it's probably worth noting, maybe it is obvious to everybody, but the posted speed limit is the maximum permitted speed limit on that particular section of road, not necessarily the average speed with respect to that. So looking at sort of an overview of this particular road section and sort of relating it back to the bylaw in 2016 with respect to community safety zones, there is a reasonable, as the CAO already mentioned earlier, there is sort of a risk criteria. And looking at these road sections, they're relatively open, the right of way, quite visible. They're smaller road sections where typical traffic shouldn't reach high speeds with respect to that. So I think all in all, there does seem to be a little bit of a habit, and I know that we've certainly done it in the past of installing children at play signage. What happens is that those signage, once they go up initially, The users of the road, look at them very similar to the speed counters. It gets their attention, but as you move forward into weeks and months, it's sort of almost like, you don't pay attention to it. So they're not as effective. And I think probably in a number of cases, those signs, that, we've seen out from the, private homeowners that have the, they're the, sort of fluorescent, little, individual with the flag sort of saying, slow down. And I think having those out for a little bit and then taking them away and then putting them out is probably much more effective in some of those areas. So, realistically, what our recommendation is to sort of remain status quo, on these two particular roads and not put any additional signage up, at this time.
Thank you, Director of Operations. So just two questions before I start the discussion. Both the areas in this discussion are indicated as being 40 km/h as the official speeds, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay, the information provided say they should be 50s. So did we make a decision at some point, somewhere, some way to reduce the speed from 50 and post them 40? Like, do we actually know that they're actually 40s?
Through the chair, I cannot say with 100% certainty that that a bylaw was what was passed when those two roads were assumed into the network.
Yeah.
It is possible in certain respects that it may have been posted at 40, but potentially no corresponding bylaw to indicate that.
If there isn't a corresponding bylaw to indicate that, are they 50s then, or are they 80s?
Through the chair, given the proximity to that settlement area, I would categorize those as 50.
But would we need to pass a bylaw to make them a 50? That's more my question. Like, if we don't have a bylaw in place to make them 40, there isn't a bylaw in place when we assume them. What would the automatic speed limit be? How do you pick a speed limit for them? We don't have a bylaw in place.
So I would, assessing those, we would probably interpret those as a reasonable build-up area and thus designate that as, or with the removal of low signs, it would be the posted speed or the non-posted speed would likely be 50.
Correct. I just, before we even started the discussion, there's two pieces of information there because I didn't see a bylaw that said that they were moved to 40. And certainly in the information that we received, it says 50 or 80. So just kind of curious where we fell or how we got to that. So, okay, so recommendation committee recommends that council remain status quo on road sign on Baker and Lennox and continue to utilize framework established in the community safety zone policy. Okay, so my next question would be, where are we in that policy as it stands today? I mean, we're having a discussion about it here. So what would the next recommended step be? Is that the speed model sign? Is that?
I think through the chair, the most likely the missing information would be the traffic counters on to determine what's happening actually on that road. But if I look at sort of going through those risk factors, I don't see it reaching that threshold of 13 or higher that would require some type of action to necessarily be taken.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I just wanted to start the discussion to see where we're at. I'll just work those questions through and then see what the will of the committee is to move forward with it. So, do you wanna go?
Sure, yes, please. So, I mean, the residents came forth, and I tried to get a hold of the resident who sent us the letter. But, you know, based on time and various other things, I'm assuming we just didn't connect. I wanted a little more information on the concern, to be honest, because they did come out with a concern. And I don't think they're concerned, and I know that's not what we were trying to say, but is, you know, we're turning your 40 zone into a 50 zone to help safety. I'm pretty sure that's not what they want to hear.
Right.
But and I don't think that's what the intent was, but I, you know, without that further conversation, I'm not sure of the entire scope of the concern. They were talking about it. I mean, and you know, I drove by after myself and I saw the 40 signs there as well. So you know, assuming people are not breaking the speed limit by doubling through there. You know, the concern of cars going through there at 40, I mean, I don't think we can do much different than enforce that, to be honest, and you know, but that being said, I think it is worth some investigation, because I've certainly seen people who get in behind, you know, dump trucks or 18-wheeler trucks, take that as an escape route to get around them to get back on 44 and go sort of an different bypass when they're trying to travel south on 44, essentially. I've seen it happen a few times, to be honest. So, you know, so with that concern, that might be where this concern is coming from, but I haven't been able to have that conversation, so, you know, but then if we did follow through with the recommendation today, does that close the door on them coming back and having more conversations? And in which case, I'd rather we just, you know, delay this indefinitely to another point, to be honest, instead of even following the recommendation and moving the recommendation.
Yeah, nobody has to move it, so. Yeah. You'd need somebody to move the recommendation. If nobody moves it, it just dies. Dies on the floor and doesn't move forward, or if somebody wants to bring it back for a further discussion later, then
Exactly, and I mean, you know, or I could move a discussion to
defer.
you know, to be honest.
I was joking when I said that before. Deputy Mayor, any input?
No, I think we did, like I said, 40, I can't see how. Again, it's like one of those streets, I can't see how you can really get wound up. To, you know, you gotta stop at 21 or you'd be in the rhubarb.
Yeah.
To get a speed where 50 maybe. Be tops going down there, so I mean, I think I'm status quo on that too up there. And you know, if we wanna put up a speed sign to get some data, I'm all for it. That is important, you know, on these. So. That's my.
Counselor?
Yeah.
Through the chair, through the CAO, I've seen signs that have flashing lights at the top of them, like, the director of operations said that it's true, you get used to seeing the same sign. But when, you come up on Everett Street and they got the pedestrian, them lights are flashing, you're always looking at them and you're gonna read them, so I just wonder if they have them for just the regular signs that we have up there. Children at play or whatever, like if they were flashing, it would.
Through the chair to Councillor Snell, to the roads manager, I don't know if they have any of those signs in inventory that we can use, or if that's something that we would have to add to a budget item, that we would replace signs with the flashing lights just to bring more awareness to those intersections or to those speed limits.
Excuse me, through the chair, we do have a few, we do have a few that were stolen. So we may, depending on how many you left out, we may need to purchase more, or maybe use what we have.
You're speaking to speed monitoring signs, not just a strobe or a flash, though. You're speaking more to a flash,
Yeah.
right? It's something that draws your attention.
Yeah.
Not a speed monitoring sign. Yeah.
Sorry, we don't have it.
Okay.
I think, I mean, if the speed limit's 40. Seems safe enough to me, but I can't see why it would hurt to get some data. Find out
Oh,
what's going
absolutely.
on. I think that's a good idea, certainly doesn't hurt.
Okay, so I think,
So I would like to recommend that if we will, to defer this, to allow staff to collect some data on the traffic flow through the area. I mean, I don't have a timeline for that. I mean, let's just say 6 months or something like that, if that's the case, and then go back to it.
Can you add the confirmation of the speed limit? So that if it's not an official 40, that we can get it to be an official 40, so that if we ever have to do some form of enforcement, when the enforcement comes, that it's the correct speed limit, so all the tickets don't get thrown.
If the acting clerk can interpret that into what I said, that's absolutely.
Just a confirmation of the
Yeah,
official.
yeah, the official speed limit. Yep. Sounds good to me.
Are you saying, Mr. Mayor, you don't want to go from 40 to 50?
I don't wanna go 40. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that if there is enforcement and you give a ticket out on a marked road that an OPP officer thinks is 40 and it's actually 50, every one of those tickets will get thrown out.
Yeah.
So not correct, right? So,
So yes, so I move that.
okay, you need a seconder.
Do I have a second? Right, so you should ask that. I'll let you ask that.
I just did. Do you have a seconder?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'll say.
Deputy Mayor, then further discussion? Hearing none, then, all in favor? Good, unanimous again. You guys are rolling. First period's already over.
No, it just,
That's, I was just checking.
What's the score?
I was just checking to see who was, I was just checking to see who was watching the game. Now I know. Usually it's me. All right, so we are on to this one, which is the County Road 2, so it's item 8E, which is County Road 2 rehabilitation project update, and
To the chair, I'll defer to the manager for roads to give a presentation.
Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight's information item before you, background during the council inquiry section, May 27th meeting, staff is directed to return with an update of outstanding items and timing of work completion on County Road 2 road project. Kavanaugh Construction provided notice to residents on May 14th regarding the return to the site to complete the remaining scope of the project. Mobilization did not occur until May 27th. Their plan is to be done and completed all works by the end of June. Currently, the concrete works have been almost completed, structures are raised. Landscapers are beginning the interlock and topsoil and sod. There's still some work to do, including extension of a culvert at the west limit of the project. And paving deficiencies are still waiting to be completed.
That's it. Okay, so. I am. Thank you first. Thank you for that update. I'm just. There's a lot of deficiencies in paving and we paid a lot of money. We're paying a lot of money for, in my mind, I mean, a lot of municipalities, you're not even allowed to cut their pavement for a certain amount of time after it's first paved, and we have a ton of cuts in this pavement. Is there a concern, or, I mean, we paid for a clean sheet of pavement, we're certainly not getting that. We're getting a finished project, but they're fixing deficiencies, but they're creating deficiencies at the same time, right? So my concern is more that we're not getting what we actually paid for. So I don't know if that's through the CAO or to you directly, or how I do with that, but it's just my concern before I open for discussion.
So through the chair, we've been in contact with, we did a deficiency walk around with United County Legal General. And they put forward their list as well. We Township Edward Cardinal put forward their list, and they're working on those lists. I haven't heard about the final top surface. I can look into that and make sure and get an answer back.
Is there any world that exists that they'll redo that top surface? Is it a potential that they'll mill it and put it back down?
It's never happened before, but not necessarily likely.
Okay, all right, I just wanna make sure that we're addressing the concerns that we have, and we certainly are paying for a surface that, you know, I'm not convinced that we're getting. So, discussion, if any, does anyone want to raise a hand? And
I just feel that they're making headway, Mr. Mayor, means from the outstanding items that I see in the summary from the 5th of May, and we had rain days. I mean, it's not the perfect world by getting in there. But as of June 7th, I see everything coming along. I mean, your landscape is gonna be the last, obviously, so I can understand there's 14 in May and there's only 12 in June, but you know, I don't see an issue. They had some, the nice thing about it, at least they're replacing, like they had cement issues there at the far west, at the west end, and they fixed them. I mean, all of our stuff is getting fixed. There's not soon the efficiencies that we're telling them, we're getting it done. So I'm pleased that way to see that they're following up and that we're not chasing them, which I know we had incidents. So on this, I see that we're making headway. I don't see the payment issue that you're kind of referring to. I really, and I go down that road, I don't know, twice a week, twice a day sometimes. And I don't see where we're gonna have a big issue. But I could be missing something that you see.
yeah, there's lots of cuts in the paper.
Okay, cuts, but I mean,
They will do,
sorry?
they will do.
Every one of them was gonna dip.
Everyone.
Well, that's something that we're,
I'm just saying.
if they're gonna dip whatever cuts they are, so.
Yeah.
I'm not a pavement person, I'm gonna tell you that right now, so I'm gonna put. But if that's something we should bring up, then we should bring it up.
I think we have to let staff do.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's come along good from this. From the data we have, you know, our data is important, it's right there, so I think it's okay.
We've already paid for this, right? 100%, or did we have the holdback, or?
Through the chair, no holdbacks have been released on this project.
Okay, so. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a pavement guy either, but I don't like the idea that, you know, we could get this done and it could be needing to be done again 5 years down the road, and, you know. Anyways, I don't have, you know, it's just a comment, but.
Yeah, sure. I think that's all that it's gonna draw, is a couple of comments. You guys?
I just have one question, where Sherry Crosser lived, I thought I brought up before, was there not a driveway going right up to her driveway? Like she has to come up the laneway now, I guess
No.
you call it. There was never a driveway coming out of her driveway?
Well, let staff answer that,
Yeah.
but I don't wanna identify people by name,
Oh,
but
sorry, well, I don't know what the name of that.
that's okay. I understand.
Well, I think the location being referred to, Mr. Chair, prior to that construction, actually, they had a laneway from the apartment building up to their property.
Down the sidewalk.
Initially through that project,
Oh, yeah.
the hope was to potentially bring that straight off Henry Road 2 directly into their sort of existing driveway. However, with some of the buried infrastructure and levels in that regard, unfortunately not able to get that straight up. So it was moved to the west to a point where it could have the separation with respect to the buried infrastructure and not have any concerns in that regard. So sort of ended up a hybrid.
Yeah, it's a funky one. It's better than it was, but.
Yeah,
still not
definitely.
perfect. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, I'm good, yeah.
I do have one, and I think it came out of both the comments over here, and it was through contract management, right? So we had a contract manager for this project, did we not?
Chair, yes.
So how do we end up with? I may be wrong, I'm not gonna say a number, there's a considerable amount of deficiencies. How did we end up with a contract manager that we paid? I think we pay the contract manager fully. I don't think there's a holdback on the contract manager. How do we end up with that many deficiencies when we have a contract manager in place? Isn't that why we hire a contract manager?
Through the chair, I think in this situation, for lack of a better, better way to put it, I think there was a push to finish. And, maybe during that push, things got missed. Certainly follow up with the contract admin people and get their thoughts on what happened.
I mean, we're gonna go through a lot of projects this year. We got 14 roads and a bridge. I don't know if we're using the same contract management or not, but if that push was because we pushed to get it done, then I mean, I guess I accept some responsibility in it, but if the contract management is the one that's pushing to get it done, I guess I'm missing some of that. The understanding of the way that actually worked. I think my understanding was we were only gonna do one lift of pavement in the fall, and then we were gonna finish it in the spring, and then it ended up all getting finished in the fall. I think that's the way that I originally understood it, but my concern is that if contract management is the issue, then we have a lot of projects coming this year. I don't wanna run into the same issues with the same contract management.
Through the chair, I don't believe this is a contract management issue. I think there was other things at play, and without knowing all of that information, I don't feel comfortable really saying anything at this time.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll just get an update again then as the deficiencies get cleared up, just so that we're all comfortable where we are at some point.
Through the chair, yes, once the remedies get or once the deficiencies get remedied and we get issued a substantial completion certificate, that would be the time to go over with the contract administrator as to what went well, what didn't go well, and why we are where we are.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Everyone good? We can move on from that one. We got the update. Good. All right. So then, item 8F, then temporary road closure, Optimus Club Soapbox Derby.
Through the chair, I'll go again to our roads manager.
Thank you once again, Mr. Chair. Tonight's action item is purpose to bring forward a request from the Optimus Club for a portion of Good Road closed on September 21st, 2024, the annual soapbox derby. Staff received a request from representative from the Optimus Club requesting a temporary partial closure of Good Road from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. on September 21st. Notifications must be provided in advance to emergency services and to residents directly impacted by the event. Closure areas from Cleary Road to County Road 44. And closure will be displayed on the municipal flag on the line. So the resolution of council is required to approve the temporary road closure for the in-kind supply of barricades. Committee recommends that council closure of Good Road between civic addresses 2927 to 3012 on September 21st, 2024. Between the hours of 9 and 1 for the Optimus Club Soapbox Derby, and direct staff to supply barricades for the Optimus Club, and to ensure notification to affected residents of emergency services.
Good, thanks, thanks, Chris. Certainly Optimus Club does a fantastic job with Soapbox Derby. This is well in advance of the September event. I don't think it ran actually last year because of the weather. I think it was the year before that we broke one of their cars.
Yeah.
Is there discussion on this, or do I just have a mover?
So move, yeah.
Move, you want to talk to it, or you?
Oh, I wanted to move it.
Okay, well, you guys can arm wrestle over mover and seconder, both this side for the mover and seconder. Any discussion? Other than that we support the Optimist Club and Soapbox Derby? All right, hearing none, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. And so then we are on to item G, which is municipal tree cleanup and CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just some background on this information item. In mid-May, staff had correspondence with a representative from the MNRF and mentioned that there are still some funds available to us under this program. Staff have contacted SNC to reestablish the MOU for forestry services to assist in a similar fashion to last year's program completed at the Cardinal Waterfront. The area of focus this year will be Johnstown. SNC staff are on site assessing a number of trees on June 5th. We're waiting the findings and we'll issue a RFQ for the removal of trees and the grinding of stumps. Ideally, the program will see 1 new tree planted for every 2 trees removed. And we're on a relatively tight budget or tight timeline to have the work completed and submitted to MNRF by the end of July.
Perfect. Okay. I just thought I might have heard that backwards. The 2 for 1, 1 for 2.
The report says 1 new tree planted for every 2 trees removed.
1 for 2. Okay, fair enough. So quick question before we have any discussion on it. Is that what's going on in Johnstown with the orange painting on the trees?
Through the chair, yes.
Yes, okay, that's my answer. All right, fair enough. All right, discussion of it.
Where did you see the orange paint in Johnstown?
There's, I don't know, like 50 dead ash trees or something like that.
All the trees.
I'm assuming they're all ash. Sorry, let's staff do answer the question.
I'll defer to the director of operations on this one.
Through the chair, although we don't have the report back from Sarah Nation Conservation, the assumption is that the vast majority of those are the ash trees, and due to the number of resident complaints and with respect to the road patrols, it seemed to be the opportune time with a window where we have some funding to undertake that. A bigger removal, and I do understand that ideally we would be planting more trees than removing, but I think the priority is the removal and trying to get some new trees.
Yeah, there are certainly, I mean, we, Councillor Smale and I played in the Mill Golf Tournament this weekend, and the effect of the loss of ash trees on one of the holes, especially I think it was number 5 along the railroad tracks. There's a great deal of ash there, and what once was a healthy forested left side of a fairway is now wide open. It's certainly changed the makeup, and there's a lot of dead ones still standing. So I know that this is an issue throughout the township. So I think it's money well spent. But anyone?
Nothing,
There's no recommendation.
and the councillor still had a back and walking with her, but what I was.
Yes, he did. All right, so there is no recommendation. Does anyone have any comments? Yes. Go.
Through the chair to CAO. When I was in Johnstown yesterday, all these trees are numbered. Are we only taking trees down that are, like, are all those trees on our property, Everett Township property? Because I noticed a couple that were set back a little further, and I'm pretty sure people are gonna be saying to me, why aren't you cutting these trees down? They're dead. But I don't know if they're on our property or their property. I'm just wondering if.
Through the chair, it would just be on our property.
Fair enough. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
leave it at that.
Nothing from-
So we're good. It's just an information item. Okay. All right, so we are now into councillor inquiries and notices of motion. Does anyone have an inquiry or notice of motion?
I
Councillor
do,
Mann.
Mr. Mayor.
But
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see
I
you.
just want to inquire, through the chair to the director of operations. When is the paving gonna begin and where are you going to start? I've had a lot of people asking me.
Through the chair, if we just give me 1 minute to get caught up.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
wow.
you
You
are
are,
clerk tonight,
you are
too.
clerk tonight. To the clerk.
Sorry. He was live.
He needs a voice recorder. Yeah. he does.
Yeah, through the,
Yeah.
through the chair, we have, reached out to the successful bidder, looking to do a pre-construction meeting, hopefully, scheduled within the next, week or so to get that full work schedule out. And as soon as we, work through that, schedule, we'll advise those locations of rough timing of when we'll be on site. So hopefully, everybody will start to see, some information rolling out in the next, week or two.
Comfortable with that?
Yes, thank you, sir clerk.
Did you have a further one or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the, input from council from the table here, committee, I would like to maybe have our staff get a hold of the United County staff and see if we can't put up, a traffic sign on Crystal Rock, Highway 44, County Road 44. Crystal Rock running both east or north and south. If I get the, I've been getting complaints there about speeding, I'd like to maybe get as much data as we can.
It's not the first time, I don't think, in that
No,
area.
no,
We've
it is
discussed
not,
it over
not
the
that,
last 5 years, several
no, not
times.
that one, several times, but anyway.
Just a nodding.
If we can get nod ahead, if anybody's happy with that, or,
Just the monitoring signs on 44. Yeah, good.
the staff could take it, get as much data as we can.
Chair, yes, we'll contact the county.
Thank you very much, Mr. CEO. Good. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further, anyone? Okay, I do have one. And I've had recently several residents, had a new resident to Johnstown who's just in the process of moving in, who has chickens. And in reading the bylaw, they believe that they're not allowed to have chickens in Johnstown. So my question to staff, in my mind, when we redid the ZBL, we allowed for chickens, domestic fowl females, in the hamlet areas. Am I wrong in thinking that we did allow them in the hamlet areas? Or did we exclude the hamlet areas? That's my inquiry. Then the next one will be my notice of motion, depending upon that answer.
Okay, through the chair, I'll ask if the director of operations knows any of that history.
Through the chair, I am not, I don't have a level of confidence to answer that without referring back.
Yeah, okay.
In fairness, it would be more of a recollecting what I recall, and I would prefer to look that back.
Okay, so provided, depending upon what the answer to that is, and if you could provide me, or provide, I don't know if I can ask that question. Depending upon what the answer to that is, then my notice of motion would be, if they're not allowed in the hamlet areas, I would like to bring forward a notice of motion that would allow them, in hamlet areas. So, at the soonest meeting that it could be discussed. So we have to, obviously, we have to have a full discussion at the table. It would require a zoning bylaw amendment. I understand that it's a lengthy process, but I'd like to, if it's not allowed now, at least have the discussion at the table so that this group can decide whether they want them or not want them, and then move that process forward.
Through the chair, we will look to see, you know, what the ZBA says on that, and, if it's allowed, we will let. If it's not, then, we'll prepare, a motion to bring that forward that they are allowed.
Through the chair, would you please, if it's allowed, please send that all
Yes,
out to council.
For
Please.
sure.
Yeah, the bylaw. Yeah, that, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah,
very
that way we're just clear. Anyone that asks, that way we're clear. Because there are,
much.
I definitely have several, and it's more than it has been, which is strange, but. And are any further notices or inquiries?
No, I mean, and not really either of those, but just, I'd like to thank staff, by the way. We had a very successful, I would think, inflatables day at the Cardinal Ingredient Center there. And at least twice or three times as many children there this year, and just, you know, great job by staff to do that for us, so appreciate it.
High praise from Audrey.
Good, yeah. I missed you. I did, when you were there.
I wasn't there, but
Okay.
business room, but she was there and she came back very excited.
Yes. Lots of excited little people, lots of long afternoon naps, moved around my place.
It's good. It's good. And it was well advertised too. Mayor's report. So, mayor's report, pretty simple. Is there much to discuss? Most of it I've already brought forward. I brought forward the speed discussion from the counties. The agricultural year discussion continues. To be front and center at the counties. It was recently deferred. There was a motion put on the floor by staff to approve the recommendations to end the reporting period and approve the recommendations. County's council isn't ready to do that yet at this point. We recognize that it has to be done for 2026. County's council continues to be supportive to make sure that each and every municipality is satisfied with the process that's used and the end report that comes up with, so that we identify and protect prime agricultural land. That is the ultimate goal. And before we change or remove any landowner rights, in that process, we want to make sure that that process is done in the most appropriate manner possible, and so that everyone is 100% satisfied. I don't know that anybody will ever be 100% satisfied, but it continues to be a very difficult discussion at the county's council table, and one that we all should be caught up with and well aware of. So, you know, to my colleagues, I suggest if you haven't watched those discussions, it's you know, it is a worthwhile to go back in those meetings and watch the discussions, that we understand exactly what's going on and how difficult those discussions can be. I want to congratulate the Heritage Society and the Spencerville Mill Foundation. We did, Councillor Smale and I played with members of the port in the golf tournament. Very successful event. Tim East, Mary Malcolmson, and all the volunteers that were there. It was a well-attended event at Prescott Golf Club. It was a lot of fun, and certainly I think I didn't hear the number from Tim when we talked to Tim today, but I'm sure that they raised a very, very large amount of money to help with. I believe they're using it towards the elevator at the Spencerville Mill. So, which is good. I don't really have a lot further to bring forward at this time. Does anyone, you know, you already know I was going to give you the inflatables. Steve, is there anything you did on my behalf last couple of weeks?
No.
You guys are good. All right, so then that's the mayor's report. Do we need a mover and a seconder on that? Sorry, you're waving at me.
I just wondering if you want to mention where you were today?
Oh, shoot, yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you. The deputy mayor and myself, the former CAO and the present CAO, and the students from the and the director, Mike, facilities Rex, facilities director, Mike, thanks, Dave. Attended South Grenville District High School today it was the wrap up of the real world learning project where, I believe it was Adam and Eric constructed a bench of the Conestoga. It will be installed at the dive site. It's a beautiful bench. It's super, super heavy duty. The guys, they did a fantastic job. The Conestoga is engraved in the wood on the bench, and the years that she was there. I think it's a fantastic job by them celebrating the history of the Conestoga. Desiree and Kira did this fantastic drawing, hand drawing. The two of them worked on it together to out of what they could find from historical data on the Conestoga and what the Conestoga was likely to have looked like, and then they gave that back to us as well to presented it back to us so that we could hang it in a location that we felt worthy to put it up. So I would certainly thank them for that. And lastly, I think it was Brad did history of Rusty Crawford and turned over a PowerPoint presentation that will get plugged in at the Ingredient Center for sure. And it will play its several slides on Rusty's history and Rusty's career and the, being the first NHL player that he often doesn't get the recognition, area NHL player that he certainly doesn't get the recognition from. In having the discussions with the principal and with Angela Hunter and Tim East, they certainly want to continue with staff and with council on this project. I can't say enough. It was a fantastic project. They have so many interesting ideas. Tim came up with some fantastic ones about people that were lost in the World War and coming up with trying to find a way to tell their story and to pull names off the cenotaph and connect them with hockey teams and things like that to make it really interesting for the students, but to allow us to tell the history, the rich history of the residents of Edwardsburg Cardinal. And I can't wait to see what they come up with next year. It's already been indicated they want to continue that. They've talked, and Ingredient wants to continue being a partner. And I hope that we may have other community organizations that want to step up and be partners with the township and with the wonderful work that that South Grenville and the Upper Canada District School Board is doing there. Can't say enough about the great work that Tim was doing, and Tony and Rick as well, from the welding shop and from the woodworking shop. They great work all around. So thank you, Director, for reminding me of that. I would have felt terrible if I missed it. So fantastic work to them, and hopefully that continues for a long time. It's hard to imagine that we didn't have a partnership with them in some way. Okay, and with that, there is the mayor's report. Do I have to have a mover and a seconder in this? No, it's only in council, right? Okay, so question period. Were there questions at all from media or anybody submit anything at all? No, seeing and hearing none, then I need a mover to go into closed session. Somebody have a motion to move into closed session? Go.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Mr. Ward. That the closed meeting, the committee, wrong one. That the committee proceeds in closed session at 8:18 p.m. in order to address the matter.
Well, just for 1 second, 8:48.
Oh, 8:48. Thank you. In order to address the matter pertaining to section 239 2B personal matters with identifiable individual, including municipality or local board employees, specifically for succession planning, and B, section 239 2C proposal pending acquisition or disposition. Disposition of land by municipality or local board, specifically the minutes of closed session dated May 13th, 2024.
Yeah, moved and seconded. I'll call the question. Going into closed session, all in favor? Good, we're in close. We'll take a 5-minute recess and allow for staff to. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
How was your first week, Jess? You're next. Go.
Ready? Moved by myself and second by Mr. Ward that the closed meeting of the committee does now adjourn and the opening meeting does now resume at 9:57 p.m.
Thank you. I'll call the vote on coming back into closing the closed session and reopening the open session. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so reporting out of closed session. Committee or council met to discuss section 239(2)B personnel matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically for succession planning. And gave direction to the CAO. Item B, we met discussing section 239(2)C, proposed or pending acquisition, disposition of land by the municipal or local board, specifically the minutes of closed session date of May 13th. And that's it. Does somebody have a motion to pass those minutes?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Waddy Smale, that committee receives and approves the closed session meetings dated May 13th, 2024.
Okay, I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
So passed. We've reported out. Done the minutes. Do the adjournment, correct?
Third.
I might have screwed up the order.
No, but
Then who has adjournment? Councillor Smale.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Joe Martell, that the committee does now adjourn at 9:59 p.m.
Non-debatable, so I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Cool.
What's the score?
1-1 for the.
1-1. Oh, no. Good discussion, folks. Good meeting tonight.
Chris,
Wasn't too
don't
bad.
get my road going home.
What a trick question.